Yes, he's been trying to kill them for the last 45 minutes. Yeah. Fine. Okay, so so we were in the middle of the sugya of Maimed Shloshtan, right? Which is this unique way of making a kinyan that if you have three parties present, right? You have, let's go with the simple case. You have a lender and a borrower and then a third party. So the lender owes money, the borrower owes money to the lender. And then the lender says, you know what, instead of giving me the money, I'm transferring it over to this guy. And we said that, we tried to figure out how that kinyan works. There's no kinyan there. So how could it be that this third party takes over the loan? So we said that there's Maimed Shloshtan, there's a special din of Maimed Shloshtan. So Gemara went back and forth trying to prove that there has to be something in it for the guy to have it in his das, that he's giving it over to that the borrower, that's usually in the case of borrower, that the borrower is giving it over to this third party. Right? Anyway, so that's what we're holding. So the Gemara says, Elo Amar Marzutra, 6 lines down, Elo Amar Marzutra, Hani Tlas Mili Shavinu Rabbanu Kil Chasa B'Loi Time. Right? These 3 things, the Chachamim made it the same as Halacha lemoshe misinai without any tam, meaning there's no real reason to explain it. Which the way Rashi says it, it's as if it was Moshe was makabelit from Har Sinai, and he doesn't have to give a reason. Meaning this is it. It's Halacha lemoshe misinai, and there's nothing to talk about. Meaning the Gemara tried to find reasons how the kinyan works, and the Gemara is saying now it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It just, that's the way it is, right? Now, so the way Tosfos says, that it doesn't mean tam, right? What it means, thank you. Yeah. So what it means is that there is a reason to keep it. There's a reason why the Chachamim made these takanas, but we just don't have a way to explain the kinyan, right? Yeah. So okay. So Hani Tlas Mili Shavinu Rabbanu Kichasa B'Loi Time, and they didn't look at the halacha without a reason. Chada, one is this, right? This kinyan that works with 3 parties present, so that works. V'idach, what's the other case? The Amar of Yudah Mashmuel Hakaisu Kol Nechasav L'Ishtoi. Somebody who writes all his belongings to his wife. Lo Yasa El Apitropus. Right? What he did, he made her into an apitropus, meaning a normal husband is not giving all his belongings over to his wife. At least in the old days, that's the way it was. Right? He's not giving all his belongings over to his wife. If he so did when he's dying, so what it must mean, the Chachamim said, what it must mean is that she's going to be in charge of it, but it's not necessarily all going to her. It would be going to the kids. Right? So how can they do that? So Rashi says the Chachamim could do that because of Hefker, Bezdin, Hefker. Everything, Bezdin can make anything Hefker. So Mamela, they're allowed to say this thing. Right? V'idach, what's the third case? The Amar of Chananya, Hamasi Isha Lebenoi Gadol B'Bayis. If somebody, the way they used to do it back then is they would make a chassan in a house, and then that house was kept by the chassan. The chassan moved into that house. So the assumption is that a house that they made the wedding in, then the son gets it without making any formal kinyan. It goes to the son automatically, right? Fine. So Amalei Rav Acha Bardala. So Rav said to Rav Acha Bardala, Kava de Marika Isli Gabach Yave Leplaini. He says, I have a kav, that's a measurement of Marika. So that's what do we call it? The article says it's saffron. It's a spice, yeah. Isli. So he said, Rav told Rav Acha, I have a kav of this saffron, right? And that you owe me, and go give it to a third party. Right? And in front of you, I'm telling you that I'm not going to change my mind. Meaning, he said, you owe me this spice, go give it to this other guy. And I promise, he said, I didn't say I promise, but he says, I am not going to backtrack on this. So now, if we said that when there's three people standing there, one of them could go and say that, give that product or item or money to a third party, and it works. So how, of course he can't backtrack. Right? Of course he can't backtrack. Fine. So right. So that's so why did he say that? Why did Rav tell Rav Acha that he's not changing his mind? Of course he can't change his mind. It's a real kinyan. So Gemara says, Mechlal, the Gemara asks, Mechlal, the Ibai Hadarbe, Matzi Hadarbe. It sounds like if he wants to go back, he can go back. Didn't we just say that if you do this thing in front of three people, then it's a kinyan, it's automatic kinyan. So of course he can't go back. So Gemara answers, no, what he meant was Dvarim halalu like nitnu l'chazara. These things in front of three people are not meant for chazara, right? Meaning there's no, you can't be chazer. He didn't say, I'm doing this, I'm telling you to give this spice to this third party, and I'm not going to backtrack. No, he said, I'm giving the spice to a third party, right? And therefore, I can't backtrack because the kinyan is a legitimate kinyan. Right? So
is it lemoshe? The whole idea of my mitzvos is with words, right? You're not actually making any lemoshe kinyan, correct?
Correct.
So Dibur can be
that's what we're saying. It's halacha lemoshe misinai.
It's not halacha lemoshe misinai, but they're saying
I'm saying it's the equivalent of halacha lemoshe misinai. Right? It's the equivalent of halacha lemoshe misinai. It's not. There is no kinyan going on here, but we look at it like it's a legitimate kinyan. That's exactly what he's saying.
And why is, in terms of kinyan, why is this any different than any other kinyan that's established in the Welt? Like situmta.
Well, I don't know who says it's not.
Because you have to have the abundant shtel of the vec. Situmta doesn't need the abundant shtel of the vec. The Welt shtels of the vec.
Yeah, but there's nothing changing hands here. Nothing.
I understand that, but why? Meaning, why did they need to come along and say this is extra special, more than any other established in the Welt kinyan that the abundant don't need to establish it? It's established in the Welt, and Allah consider those real kinyanim.
Yeah,
why did they need to come along and make this something special more than those kinyanim?
Because you're doing a maisa. You're
not doing a maisa, which you just said.
This right. The other ones you are doing a maisa.
And when you shake somebody's hand, you're doing a maisa. I'm saying,
why not?
My point, no, but my point is, it's not because you're doing a maisa or not doing a maisa. The point is that you're whatever is established protocol for kinyanim, that's kinyanim.
But you're doing something here. You're doing nothing. You're just talking.
I hear.
That's the way I hear what you're saying, but that's why I think here you're just talking, and it works, right? Okay, so that's what Rav meant. Rav meant that I can't backtrack because we did this kinyan in front of three people. So I'm going to ask, Rav already said this once. He says, I have a mana, give it to Pliny. But my mitzvos done kana in front of three people, then you're kind of, right? So Gemara answers, right? So he already said that you do this kinyan thing in front of three people, it's kana. So if it was from that case, I would have thought that it's only a matana meruba, large matanas, right? Our matana muetes, but a smaller matana like what he gave a kav, it doesn't have to be the third person. Meaning maybe even it would work even with just two people there, and you don't need the three people there. Kamash Malan, that for any sort of kinyan you need to have three people there. Fine. Okay, so that's really the end of my which. Well, no, it's not. We have a little bit more, but Lamaisa we paskin like this, and my mitzvos will work as some sort of kinyan. I don't know exactly in what scenarios, but yeah. So then Gemara
can you do my mitzvos for chiddush?
I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know the exact parameters when we say it, when we don't say it. Yeah, so let's see. It's a Hanu Ginoi. There were these gardeners, the Ovid Chushma Bahadi Hadadi. They made a cheshbon with each other. So you had these gardeners. So I guess they were working for one owner, and then they needed to get paid. So they made a cheshbon Bahadi Hadadi. Posh Chamesh Stira Zuze Gabi Chadmina. What they made a cheshbon that one of them got paid an extra 5 Stira Zuzi. That's some coins. So one of them got paid an extra 5. So Amrila Yehivna Heli Lamariara. Since you took an extra 5, give it back to the owner of the land. Right? Yehivna means to give Naheli to him, Lamariara to the owner of the ground. But give it in front of him. Right? Because that's going to be the apitropus. Right? But then what he did something extra. He also did a kinyan from him. So, and not only did he do this maimed shlashta, and in front of 3 people, he also did a kinyan chalipin, which is what we do when you do mechiras chametz, right? Or by a kiddushin, you give one person gives the yarmulke or the shmata, and the other one is giving something back in exchange, even though it's not really an exchange. But that's essentially what they did. So they did something extra. The Saif Azal, then he went. In the end, he went, and then that gardener who officially got paid an extra 5 made a calculation, and he realized he didn't pay anything extra. He didn't get paid anything extra. So what did he do? So first of all, Tosfos points out that it has to be that the other guys were masking to it, because if not, then he's not believed. Right? Once he admitted that he owes 5, and then he just changes his mind, he can't just change his mind. So it has to be that the other ones accepted that, oh yeah, Taka, he did not have an extra 5. Okay, that's a technical point. But either way, he realized he didn't have anything extra. Yeah, well, not only right, but once he made a chazaka, not a chazaka, once he admitted that he owes the 5, you can't just say, oh, I don't owe the 5 anymore.
You could show the cheshbon.
Well, then they must have believed him. You have to believe him. You have to have them. They have to believe.
If they don't believe him and he has the right cheshbon,
then you have to have an edus or something. Anyways, so he said, he says there was nothing extra. Also, Rav Nachman. So they came in front of Rav Nachman, and meaning he came in front of Rav Nachman because he wanted to get out of it. What should I do? First thing is what Rav Huna said in the name of Rav, that it's a kinyan. This thing in front of 3 people is a kinyan. But right? You did a kinyan chalipin. So what can we do? There's no backsies. Right? So now what Rav Nachman thought here, he just it wasn't Rav Nachman clearly from what he answered didn't think that the guy made a new calculation and realized there was something off. Right? He thought that the guy wanted to backtrack. So he told him you can't backtrack. Right? That's what.
But Yaakov, when did he actually say, I want to give it to the person in this story? The other gardeners decided on their own, hey, we want to give it to you.
When did he give it? He didn't give it.
The person who got the extra 5 was not the one who said, let's give it back.
Yeah, well, yeah,
it was the other gardeners. The other gardeners said, they said to him, give it back. Through the Maimed Shlashta. No, he didn't say that. The Maimed Shlashta was done by the other gardeners.
I thought he was one of them. He had to be one of them. Right? I think he had to be one of them.
Give it back to the person that owns this place.
Yeah, right.
So they're obviously who are they talking to?
To the guy who had the extra money.
So he never said, I want to give it back to them, or I want to give it back to the third party.
But he did. They told him that.
He never did, or else we wouldn't even have the shiloh.
Why not? Of course you have the shiloh.
Why?
I mean, the next word says the company name.
Either he gave it to him or he didn't give it to him. He clearly didn't give it to him because it's only a Maimed Shlashman, right?
Right.
So if it's a Maimed Shlashman, he would have to speak out. I want to give it to you in front of
Akiva, it says v'kanamine.
Kanamine is he did a kinyan chalipin. That's a separate opinion. That's what Rav Nachman's tying it back to him is
I understand, but that means he was also maskim. If he did a kinyan chalipin on it, that means he was maskim.
So then
to
that's
the
kind of what. Fine, maskim. The kinyan chalipin is what affected this transaction. What is the taina of Rav Nachman that he said the
He said both.
The first time is my mitzvos.
Correct, because there were two kinyanim here, and he says you did both.
I don't know where was the my mitzvos kinyan.
It's because he said he's giving it back.
He did not say he was giving it back. The other people said to give it back to him.
And he agreed.
Works.
And he agreed.
Somebody tells me I got to give to the third party some money. That's not considered my mitzvos.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I'm giving it to him.
Akiva, you have to listen.
He owes him the money. That's what happens. That's
a separate time. If he owes him the money, you don't need a kinyan then.
Yes, you do.
What? Because if you owe somebody money, you owe me money.
I know, but he's on the chance that he got paid different from the other gardeners. So they're all saying, give our chelek, or the extra payment that all ended up in your wallet, give it back to the owner.
You don't need a kinyan then. You owe people money. If somebody gives me money by mistake and it's not mine, I owe them the money. It's not like I ever was kind of.
That's true.
Then this whole case is wrong.
Okay, so that's wrong. It's wrong. What should I tell you? I don't know. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. It could be that each one owed the money, and each one got extra, and the way they split it up, and then this guy ended up with 5. I don't know, but the point is that he gave it back to him before he decided to argue on it.
I hear, but that's not how Rav Nachman said.
I hear. I
brought
hear
up 2 points.
Okay, no, I hear. But either way, he's saying you can't backtrack. Rav Huna thought he was trying to. Rav Nachman thought he was trying to backtrack. So Amalei Rava Atu Hai Mi Kamer Lo Yahivna the Leka Gabai. He didn't say I'm not giving it. He said it was not. The whole thing was a mistake. Right? Rav Nachman thought he wanted to backtrack and giving it. That's not what it is. He said the whole thing's a mistake. So Amalei Imkain Kinyan Betois. So it's a Kinyan Betois. The whole Kinyan Betois Chayzer. Right? It's a Kinyan that's a mistake. And anything that's a kinyan by mistake it goes back automatically, right? So that's a major rule right there. This kinyan happened by mistake, and therefore he can backtrack because the kinyan b'tois is not a kinyan. Fine. That's the end of that sugya. Now we have another sugya, which actually comes.
It's kinyan twice retroactively.
Yeah, the kinyan never happened.
But I'm saying when he did it, it wasn't a twice.
It was a tois. He was only giving it back because he thought he owed it, but he never owed it.
Okay. Later he figured when he gave it, he wasn't
correct, but that kinyan was a mistake.
So retroactively.
It's not. I guess it never happened. Right. So now the next sugya actually comes up where you owe somebody something, or you mail. So you buy. Let's say somebody buys something from you on eBay. You send it to them, and it gets damaged on the way. So who's responsible? You gave it to the post office. And then somehow it got stolen off the porch. The person already paid for it. This happened a couple of times, I think over Corona with the wigs, because I guess people were doing the wigs in the mail. So they sent back the wig and it got stolen off the porch. Right? So now who is the one responsible for the wig? Is it the sheitel macher who sent it back, right? But it never made it back there, or do you say no? It's the responsibility of the owner of the sheitel. Fine. So itmar. So they learn. The guy says, take this to mana to Pliny that I'm chayiv to him. Amarav chayiv achrayusa. He is chayiv in the achrayus. Right. So meaning, a guy says, bring $100 to this guy. I owe him $100, and he gives it to his friend to bring it to him. So Rav says he's chayiv in the achrayus, and meaning, let's say that $100 gets lost. So now, does he still have to pay back the 100, or could he say, I gave it to the shliach, and now it's your issue? So we say no. He's chayiv in the achrayus. But let's say the guy says, no, I don't want to pay him back now. Give me back that $100. He calls up the shliach and says, don't give it to him. Can he backtrack or not? So Rav is saying that you have the worst of both worlds. One is he's responsible for it, and two, he can't even be chayzer, because we look at it as if the shliach was kainet. That's the way Rav, right? The Rav says that the sender or the borrower has the worst of both worlds. He's chayiv in the achrayus, and he's not and he can't change his mind. Since he's chayiv in the achrayis, so that you can't have it both ways. If he's chayiv in the responsibility, that means it's still his. So in balas or chayzer, if he wants to go back, then he goes back. Okay, so the kasha is lema b'hakam b'flagi. Let's say that this is the Machlokes, the mars over haylach kezachi dami. One says that when you tell somebody to take it, that's as if you told them to be zoiche in it. Right? When he says, "Oh, take this money," it's as if you told the shliach, "Take the money and be koine on behalf of the recipient." Umar savar, and the other one holds no. Haylach lav kezachi dami. Right? A haylach is not like a zoiche.
How could it be?
Right? Meaning, when he said, bring it to him, but it's not going to be his until he actually gets it. So when it answers like.
How could it be that if I give someone something to bring to you, you're zoicher? But it's not good for you. You didn't get it.
What does that mean? But
he never got it to you. If you never get.
Well, that's right. So Rav says you have the worst of both worlds. He's zoich in it, but if he never gets it, so then he still gets it. He still gets it. Rav says you have both. The sender is on the wrong end of both. Shmuel says no, you can't have it two ways. If the guy is achroi, the sender is achroi, so therefore he can also change his mind. So we think that the Machlokes is whether when you tell somebody to bring something to somebody, does that mean that you're telling him to go be zoich in it? So the Gemara says that's not the Machlokes. The kuli alma haylach kezachi dami. Everybody says that when you tell something to somebody, you give it to him to bring to somebody, you're telling him to be zoich on the recipient's behalf. And here's what the Machlokes is. One says we don't say migu. This is not your standard migu. It just means since. Here it just means a type of since. We don't say since. That since the guy sending it is chayiv and achrayis, so therefore he could change it. Meaning that would be that's Rav. Rav says one has nothing to do with the other. Omar Sover and Shmuel says, right? Amrin on migu. We say migu since the guy that sent it is chayiv and achrayis, so therefore the recipient is also fine. So Tanya, therefore he could backtrack. Tanya Kava say the Rav. We have a brayso like Rav. A guy says, take this 100 to Pliny and I'm chayiv to him. 10 mana lepliny shani chayiv loy, or give the 100 to Pliny that I'm chayiv to him. Or haylach mana lepliny pikadon sheyesh loy biyadi, or bring this item that I've been watching for this fellow, bring it back to him. Or 10 mana lepliny pikadon sheyesh loy biyadi, or give to Pliny a pikadon that he has in my hand. Meaning these are all four scenarios where he gives a shliach something to bring back. So chayiv achar yusay, he's chayiv in the responsibility until it gets to the recipient. The imbalasar ain't a chayzer. And if halfway through he changes his mind and he doesn't want to pay back the guy, he cannot give him back. Right? So pikadon, but how about by a pikadon too? Why can't the sender say to the shliach, the guy that's the recipient doesn't want me giving it to somebody else to put it into somebody else's hands, right? Meaning he could say, I was sending it to him as long as it stays in my hands, right? But not that it should go into the shliach's hands, right? So how are you saying that? Oh, I gave it to the shliach and therefore it's already like his, and I can't take it back. What do you mean? Nobody wants, when somebody gives something to somebody to watch, he wants that person to watch it. He doesn't want to give it to somebody else. So when it answers, the reason why the recipient doesn't mind it going to somebody else to be watched is because shechuchsa kafram. We're talking about where the guy who was watching it had a chazaka that he's a denier, right? So he's always he was caught lying a few times, saying that the guy never left anything by him to be watched. So therefore, since this guy sometimes was a liar, so therefore it's very nicha for the recipient that it gets given to somebody else, even if it's for a third party, right? I just don't understand. If the guy was already huchsik kafran, so why is he giving him this item to be watched, right? So we're saying like, oh, this guy, he was a huchsik kafran, so therefore the recipient's be very happy as long as it gets out of his hands, even if it goes into somebody else's hands. Why is that? Why would he do that? Right?
Maybe it's a mash in this pikadon. The guy's the only guy in town that lends money.
Right. Okay,
He's
maybe
forced.
he'd have a choice.
He didn't want to listen to lashon hara, so he didn't want to listen. After 2 times, finally the 3rd time, he said, "Wait a second, the lashon hara is true. I'm stuck with this Godon. I'll be happy if somebody else gets it." You know.
I hear.
But see,
Maybe.
Yaakov,
Yeah.
what happens is because in all these cases, if let's say it was a pshia, mitzad the shliach, is he makabel at least a din of shaymer chinam when he takes the I understand he's not mechuyev in oinus, but is he mechuyev because he took it? He took some level of responsibility. He's the one who's bringing it to him. If he's to share with the money, is he not mechuyev at that point? He's at least should be a shaymer chinam.
Right. I hear that. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know enough of the hilchos of Shaimer.
No, I'm just saying because like he can manage to be pashated, like yeah, it's responsible. The person who still sent me. He's an idiot for sending me, but I'm not responsible at all. That doesn't make sense.
That's true. It's true. Yeah, I hear. I don't know. Okay, so now the Gemara brings a couple of maisim here. Rav Sheshes, Havale Ashrasa Desar Believe Mechuza. Rav Sheshes had, he had a Ashrasa is a balance, not a balance. He was owed a balance, right? That from the sarbali is like coats that were sold in Mechuza, meaning he gave inventory to these sellers to sell in Mechuza. Now they owed him the money. So Rav Yosef Bar Chama, he told Rav Yosef Bar Chama, Bahadi to us Isnayu ben Heli, when you're coming from Mechuza, bring me my money that they owe me. Ozil Yehivnale. So they went and they gave him the money. The people from Mechuza gave him the money. Amrilei, but they said Nikni Minoch. Right? Let's be kinded from you, right? So meaning they didn't want to be responsible for the money. Let's say something happened to the money. So what they wanted to do is they told who was it, Rav Yosef Bar Chama, can we sell you this item? I don't think it means an actual sale, but I just did chalipin that he should be the responsible one if something happens. Right, because we just got finished saying that it's the responsibility is going to be on the sender. These guys didn't want to take the responsibility, so they asked him if he can please be kainit, so he'll be the responsible one. So Amalahu, he said to them, "Ein yes, l'soif ishtamit lahu." But in the end, he said, "I'll do the kinyan," and then he just slipped out. Right, he left. Right, so meaning so they would never did the kinyan. So kiyasa legabe, when he came to Rav Sheshes, right, to give him the money, Amalei Shaper of Adatas, Rav Sheshes told him, you did a good thing. The loy shavas nafshach, that you didn't put yourself into this situation, right? That you would be responsible. Because why? Eved loive ishmal. The loive is an eved to the malva, meaning the borrower is a slave to the lender, right? So memela, it's their problem. Yes, they have the responsibility of making sure that this thing it gets back to me in one piece. You're not mechuyev to go do a maisa and be kinded for them, and in order that they shouldn't be responsible. Lishnachrina shaper avadata, different lashon. It's a good thing that you did eved loiva lishmalva, because an eved is a loiva to the ishmalva, right? So not sure exactly what the difference is between these two, right? Meaning he's basically telling him that it's their responsibility. They're the borrowers, so they have the lower hand. Okay, fine. That's one ma'aser. Another ma'aser. Rav Achi bar Rav Yoshia Havale ispika the kaspa na'arda. He had some sort of silver utensil in the harda, right, on Tamar Beis. So Astam, there's a kasha on the previous Gemara there. So he lied to them. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to do it," and then he slipped away. Right? So why was it mutter for him to do that? He said, "Yeah, I'm going to make the deal for you. Don't worry, I'll take care of it." Right? Do like a typical salesman thing. He said, "I'll take care of you," and then he just didn't. So how was that mutter exactly? Okay. But anyway, so the same sort of ma'aser that he had. Who was it? That he had Rav Yoshia. Rav Achab, Rav Yoshia had this silver utensil in Narda, and he wanted to get it back. So Amar Lahu Rav Dustoi Rav Yanai Rav Yosi Rav Keeper he asked them, "Bahadi da sisu asyu naheli." When you come back from Nardoi, so bring it to me. Azul yavale naheli. So the people that had the utensil gave it to him. Amri lahu. So they said to them, meaning they said to Rab Dustoi and Rab Yosi, Nikni minaychu. Can we be kinded from you? Meaning, you take the responsibility. We want to do a kinyan that you'll do a chalip and you'll give us your yarmulke, and in exchange we'll give you the item and you're going to be responsible. So Amri lahu, they said no. They said no. So because, like Rav said, the person that's sending it is the one that's responsible. Why should the guy bringing the silver utensil? Why should he take responsibility? So Amri lahu. So they said back to him, so give it back to us. If you're not going to take the responsibility to bring it back to this fellow, then let's give it back. So Rabbi Stuyber, Rabbi Yanai, Amri lahu, he says, okay, I'll give it back to you. But Rabbi Yosef Keeper, Amri lahu loy, he said he's not giving it back to him. So they started giving him tsar to Rabbi Yosef Bar Kippur. He said to him, he said, look, look what this guy's doing. He's not giving us back what he's supposed to. So Amralahu, Tav Ramuleh. It's good. Keep hitting him, right? Keep hitting him because he deserves it, because he should give it back to you, right? Because again, one of them said they'll give it back. The other one said he won't give it back. They started beating up the one who said he won't give it back. And then they asked the other one about it, and he said, yeah, beat him, right? So ki asu legabe, when they got back to Rab Achi and Rabbi Yoshia, Amalei Chazi Mar, look Mar loy mistay loy sign. Not only did my friend Rab Dustoi didn't he help me? Elo Amar lahu nami tav ramula. He even told him to beat me. What kind of business is that, right? He's telling the guys to beat me. Amalei, so he said to him, "Amai te'evet hachi. Why'd you do that?" Right, so I just my phone is going to die. So Amalei Oisan b'nei Adam. So those people told him. He said, "I'm sorry, Oisan." He said, "Those people, hein amma, they're like an amma. That's their size, meaning that they're tall. The koivan amma, and their hat is an amma. Umedarin." Recording. Sorry. And they speak from their middle, meaning they speak very confidently from their boich, I guess. And their names are muvuhalin, are scary, right? Arda va'arta upili beresh, and pili is beresh, meaning these guys are strong guys. Right? And if they tell people, tie up these people, then they're going to do it. If they tell somebody to kill somebody, they're going to kill. Meaning these guys are very powerful. They're mafia, basically. So they were busy they were beating him up. So I was afraid, so I had to make it look like I was with them. Ilu hargu es Dustoi. If they would have murdered Dustoi, Minasan liyanai Abba Bar Kamaisi would Yanai ever my father Yanai have a son like me, meaning we're going to die. If I didn't show these guys that I'm a little bit on their side, then we would both die. So that's why I did it. Meaning he didn't really mean to stab his friend in the back. He was doing it pasha to save their lives, right? So he said to them, "Are they carved to the malchus?" He said, "Yes, they are." Do they have horses and mules that run after them? He said, yes. If that's the case, you did well by trying to show that you're on their side. Then you did a good thing, right? Because otherwise you would have put your lives in sakana. Okay, I can't say I understand this story, because how did they survive it? I mean, if those guys are so strong, how'd they get out? Did they bring the utensil with them, or they did not get it from them? Right? I don't know. Anybody see anything on that? It doesn't say the end of the story. It doesn't say whether they got out of there or not, didn't get out of there. Okay. But this actually has to do with the Shavuos night sugi. What we learned is, can you save yourself? Can you save your life by stealing from somebody else? Meaning, let's say, it sounded like he held that I'll give back the silver cup, even though maybe I shouldn't, because it's going to save my life. Right? And that's the whole sugya with, can you save your life by stealing from somebody? Right? That's a sugya in Bava Kama. And that's what the Binyan Sian comes out, why he holds that even for even for a sakana, you're not allowed to take the organs of a dead person, because you're stealing in order to save somebody's life, which he says you're not allowed to do. Right? Based on the Machlokes, Rashi and Taisus and Bava Kama, but l'chayra, it has to do. Rabbi Rosner stellt to this sugya, to the sugya. Well, that was a main part of the Shavuos night. That when we learned Shavuos night about the bone, the organ donations, that's one of the big tainas. Are you allowed to steal in order to save your life? Okay, fine. Now we go weiter in a similar sugya, and we have. It's not often that you get a brisa that will have 6 opinions in it, right? But we're going to have that. So we're going to have to probably stop in the middle of the sugya. So hoylach mana leplini. So another situation is a guy tells his shliach to bring 100 to Pliny, to somebody. And he went and he looked for the guy and he didn't find him. Rashi says the reason why he didn't find him is because he was dead. So again, a guy went and said to his shliach, when you're going overseas, give him, here's $100, give it to so-and-so. When he gets there, the guy died. What do you do with the $100 now? Right? So Tani Chada, one brisa says, you got to give the money back to the sender. The sender said he's giving $100 to this fellow. This fellow died. Okay, go back, return to sender.
Does it go to Yershim?
And the other bride says, no, it goes to the Yarshim. Really, this goes to this fellow and it goes to the Yarshim. Now, what's his machlokes, Talian? Was the shliach kainet on behalf of the recipient? If he was kainet, so then it goes to the Yarshim. If he wasn't kainet, so then the guy died.
Say it before the kainet right in front of. When you say we went through, it's not like this.
So we have to see. So lema b'hakam is very good. Lema b'hakam, let's say this is the machlokes. The master b'haylach kizachi. One says that when you tell somebody to bring something, it's like you're being zaych in it. And the other one says that bringing it is not kizachi. Fine. So Amar of Abba Bar Mamal. So we're saying the same machlokes, that when you told somebody to bring it, does that mean you're telling him to acquire it on the guy's behalf or not? So Amar of Abba Bar Mamal, the cool.
How do we know when he died? I guess we established that he died before he received it.
Very good. But Gemara is going to say something like that now. Very good. So Amar of Abba Bar Mamal, the cool lav kizachi. No, everybody holds that when you tell somebody to bring money to somebody, you're not telling him to be zaychid on the recipient's behalf. But like kasha,
before.
Just relax. Hold on. But like kasha, hababari, habashchimira. One is talking about a healthy person, and one is talking about a shchimira. When it's a healthy person, so we know that he's some sort of kinyan. But when it's a shchimira, so we already said, right, that when somebody's dying, whatever he says goes, and it's considered like there's a kinyan. So when it's a shchimira, so then it's considered like the recipient got it, and therefore it goes to the yarshim. If he's healthy, then since there was no kinyan done there, then it goes back to the sender. That's one teretz. That's Rav Rama's teretz. There's Vid Amar, Haba Haba Shchimira. No, they're both talking about a guy.
Who's the shchivmira here? The sender?
Sender.
So the shchivmira is sending to someone who ended up dying.
Correct.
Okay.
Very good. So Rav Zid Amar, Haba Haba Shchimira. They're both talking about where the sender is a shchimira. Okay. One is talking about where the makabel was alive when the money was given over to the shliach. Right? That's what you're saying, Gershon, and Akiva. And the lesson the makabel b'shas matan mois. And this one's talking about where the makabel wasn't alive when the money was given over, so there was nobody alive to give it to. Meaning, again, this case is talking about where they both cases where the guy was dying. One is talking about where the makabel gave where the makabel was still alive when the money was given to the shliach, so it becomes his automatically. But if he wasn't alive when it was given to the shliach, then there was nobody to be koinit, so therefore he's not koinit. That's the second. Rapapa Amar, bari. Yeah, it's talking about, they're both talking about where the guy was healthy. The brisa that says that it goes back to the sender is talking about where he died. How does it go? Where the guy who was getting the money died when the sender was still alive, right? So therefore, it wasn't Nagea what he wanted, but what he wanted to happen. Mis Neisen b'chayim makabel. But when the guy that gave it died, when the makabel was still alive, right? So then it goes to the yarshim, and he does get to keep it. In the first case, where it doesn't work, it's talking about where the makabel died before the giver died. So therefore, there was nobody around for it to be considered. I mean, it's all telling whether there's a mitzvah to be mekayim divrei hameis. Right? When somebody says something, is there a mitzvah that he wants it to be done? So do you have to keep it even though the guy already died? Right? The question whether you say that or not. So here we're saying again, the case that the money goes back to the sender is where the guy who was going to get it died before the sender died, right? So the already alive, there was nobody to give it to, so therefore he doesn't have to give it. But when the guy died before, meaning the sender died before the makabel died, so there's a mitzvah to be mekayim, the mitzvah, what the May said.
Why is
right?
the mitzvah mavatal once the actual recipient dies before it gets there?
Once
if the sender dies before the recipient dies, right? So the yarshim are mechuyev to take on what the father said they should do. But if it didn't reach to him yet, by the time the recipient dies, why are they still mechuyev in giving it to the other yarshim? He's dead. They're mechuyev to fulfill their father's words, which was give it to that person, not to his yarshim. Once the makabel's dead, who cares?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works out that they have that.
I'm assuming both are dying. It's just a question who died first, right?
Correct.
So if the other person is dead, who cares that the yarshim are to fulfill their father's words? He didn't say to give it to the yarshim, so it's done. The deed is or not the deed, but to fulfill his father's words is not possible anymore.
No, but if the guy is still alive, then yes.
But by the time you actually got there, he's dead, so you couldn't fulfill his words anyways.
No, it must be that it's you're yeah. I don't know. I don't know. You're saying because you couldn't be mekayim it. Yeah.
You're not. I understand the mechuyev originally to mekayim the father's words before he died, but once he's dead, why would you be mechuyev in that?
Right. I hear that. Yeah. I hear. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure about that myself, but now I thought I'd get a little clearer, but now I got a little unclear. Okay, but those are three ways the Gemara, those are three terutzim why the Gemara wants to say that there's a difference between one case where one sheet says that the money goes back to the sender, the other one says it goes to the receiver's kid. So the Gemara says, Lema hoylach kizachi tanohi. Let's say that this machlokes of whether when somebody tells somebody to bring some money to somebody, whether he meant that the shliach should be zoichen on behalf of the receiver, is a machlokes tanoim. Why? The Tanya, now we're going to have 6 sheets here. The Tanya, same case. The guy says, bring 100 to Pliny, and he goes, ubikshu v'loy matzo, and he looks for the guy and he can't find him because he died. Yachseru l'mashaleach, mashaleach. Mace mishaleach, but if the mishaleach died, right? Meaning, so now both are dead. From Nasan Amru, Yachsru Yarshim, it goes back to the Yarshim of Mishaleach. Right? That's one shita. Right, again, he sent the money to the recipient was dead. Then the sender died. So now who gets the money? So Rav Nasan and Rav Yaakov say it goes back to the Yarshim of the Mishaleach, of the sender. And the other shita says, no, it goes to the Yarshim who were of the recipient. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Amar Mishum Rabbi Yaakov Shamar Mishum Rabbi Meir Mitzvah L'Kaim Divrei HaMeis. He has a sheet that you have to be Mekayim Divrei HaMeis Therefore, it has to go to the yarshim of the mekabel, of the receiver, which seems to be the same shita as the previous shita. So we'll have to see what is being mechadish. This is the fourth opinion. Yachloiku, split it. We don't know who gets it. All right. So split it with the sender or the sender's kids. Here they say, meaning in Bavel, they say, whatever the shliach wants to do, he should do. Meaning, it's up to the shliach to feel out, right? If he was a generous person, with Rashi says it, and he loves the makabel and his kids or not. Meaning, if he's generous and he really wants them to have the presents, but if it's not, then he shouldn't. Then he shouldn't.
I don't know, the Chum and the last sheet are not really doing it. He's not really satisfying anybody.
Right. Yeah. When you're splitting, anytime you do a pshara, nobody's happy. Right. Anytime you do a pshara.
The yachloik is because it's moment of suffix. No,
I'm not sure. I wasn't sure.
It's not telling that in, or it's not Jordan Mamayna.
I don't know. We'll have to see later because it's going to say that with the Machlokes.
Wait a minute, Akiva. What about a mitzi? You're taking it out of it's in somebody's rishus.
It's in nobody's rishus. That's exactly what the Gemara is saying. It's not in the rishus of nobody's being Moksigan right now. The shliach, the person who could have been Moksigan is dead. The Mishaleach is the one who should be Moksigan in. It's his money, but it's not in his chazaka. He doesn't own it. There's a cheskes marikama, but that's it. There's no actual Moksik in the money right now.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think it's a Matzimei Chavera because it's like somewhere in Hefker. Nobody knows who it is. Everybody died. Yeah, but Kanamru, when here in Bavel they say, Kol Masha Yirtza Shliach Yasta, whatever the Shliach wants to do, he should do. Right? We just did that, right? So Amar Rav Shimon HaNasi. Rav Shimon HaNasi said, Al Yidei, Al Yadi Haya Maisa Va'amru, I had this Maisa. He said, and what they said was Yachstul Yarshim Shaleach. He said it goes back to the Yarshim Shaleach, like the first Shita. Okay, so what's this? So we have 6 Shitas here. So my lab, what's the Machlokes? Tanakama Savar Haylech Lav Kezachi. The Haylech is not like a Zaycha. Right? Since he's not a Zaycha, so he didn't, the Shliach was not Kainet, so therefore he goes back to the Mishaleach. They also say that when you tell a guy to bring the money, he's not Zaycha. And even when the guy died, we don't say that there's a mitzvah to be Mekayim Divrei Ames, so therefore, and obviously we're talking about where he was not a Shchiv Mirah, right? Fine. And the other Shita says, no, when you tell somebody that you're bring him money, you're telling him to be Zayich in it. Rav Yehuda Nasti, Rav Yaakov, Rav Meir, Haylech Lav Kezachi. The Haylech is not like a Zaycha. Miu Heicha de mist, but where the sender died, right? Mitzvah l'kaim divrei ameis. Then it's a mitzvah l'kaim the words of the mace. So therefore, you give it to the then you give it either the makabel who died or give it to his yarshim. They're mistupik, right? Since they're mistupik, they don't know who to give it to, so split it. But Kanamru, and here in Bava they say shtuda adiv. Evaluation is better, meaning let the guy figure out who really was meant to have it. But Reb Shimon HaNasi Maisa Asta Lashmeinon, and Reb Shimon HaNasi is not coming to say another shita, he's just coming to say a story. Right? So basically the Gemara is saying that all these 6 opinions are disagreeing basically over one major thing, which is whether when you tell somebody to bring money to somebody else, is that telling him to be Zayich in it? And whether we say there's a mitzvah to Mekayim Divrei Ames. And the Gemara says, Loi, no, I guess let's go right and finish this. Loi, he says, no, that's not what the Machlokes says. If the guy's healthy, there's no argument here that Haylech doesn't mean to be Zayich in it. And when the elyashev says take it, we're talking about a Shchiv Meirah. We're talking about a Machlokes of Rav Elazar and Rav Abana. The Tnan HaMachalik Nechasav Al Piv. there's somebody's giving out the chasam just by mouth, meaning he didn't make a will. He just started telling his kids not what's written in the regular halachas of the Torah, right? And he just started telling Baal Peh to his kids, oh, you get this, you get that. So Rabbi Elazar Omer, echad bari v'echad mesukan, whether the guy who was dying was healthy when he said this, or whether he was sick, nechastim sheyeshnan achrayas, the nechastim that have achrayas, nikne bekesef b'shtar u'bechazaka. Meaning, in order for these kids to be kinded before the guy dies, it has to be regular, either by paying for it or with a shtar or chazaka, means like digging a hole in the property or building a fence or something like that. But she'ein achrayas, and if it doesn't have achrayas, which is basically what do you call it? Cash and non-earth, what? Metaltalim, yeah. Ein niknin elaba mashicha. That you only do a regular mashicha. Elu ve'elu niknin ba'amira. Both of these you're kind with ira, because since he's a shchiv meirah, so then he would be it's allowed. So Amrulai Maisa be'iman shel b'nei Reichel. There was a story with the mother of the b'nei Reichel, which is interesting, right? The mother of the sons of Reichel. Reichel was the father's name. There's a chayla. She was sick. And she said, "Tinasin, give on Talmud Aleph now. Tinasin, nasi leviti. Give my some jewelry to my daughter." Right now, daughters don't yarshin, so really it should be going to the kids. But it's worth 12 mana. Umesa, and then she died. In the Chamum Makayim, her words. Right? So you see that when somebody's dying, gives out things, and then they listen to her, even though no kinyan. Yeah, she was dying. Right? Even though there's no kinyan. So that's a raya to the Chachamim. So Amar Lahem, so Rabbi Elazar said back to them, B'nei Reichel, tikvarem imam. B'nei Reichel, their mother should bury them, right? Which is an interesting thing because the mother just died, right? But what Rashi says, he meant don't even mention these guys are jerks because they grew playim. For their whatever it is, like.
Shaka, you're cracking up.
Cracking up? Still?
Sounds like a speaker issue.
How long ago did it start?
Been going
It
on
happened.
a little bit.
Yeah, it happened a couple of times. A microphone issue, I think you mean.
Give me my phone. Give me my phone. Give me my phone. Can I give you my phone?
You hear me?
Yeah,
Is that better?
yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, so she
They grew
again,
playim.
right. So what happened is that in this case, so this mother wanted to give the jewelry to the daughter, and the Chachamim did what the mother wanted, even though there was no kinyan. So that's l'chayra, a raya that it works. The kinyan even without a kinyan, it works if the person's dying. So Amar Lahem, Rabbi Elazar didn't like that because again, Rabbi Elazar disagreed and hold you can't do that. He didn't really give an answer, but he said, "B'nei Reichel tikvarem imam." The B'nei Reichel, their mother, the mother should bury them, right? So, fine. So whatever it is, you see that there was a raya there. There was a raya there that the Chachamim didn't listen to.
So you can't bring a raya just because they're a sham. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what he meant by that. He's just saying don't
Rashi,
mention the
look
name
at
of the
Rashi.
He
Rashi
said,
says, "Lefish rishayim are you shayim mekayim kaitzim mekarim."
Correct. They did. Right. Right.
V'loy nilmed mahen raya lefish shaloy yidaktim.
Why can't you bring
but-
riots from them? Regardless what riots from Nebuchadnezzar, what's the big deal?
Right, that's right.
Rashi says the story you can't bring a riot from because the story might have been a different type of story. We just don't know all the details. They didn't talk about the story, Rashi says, in the Beis Medrash. The details of the story, since they were Rishayim, they were medactic in the story. Therefore, who knows what actually happened in that case? It could have been a different scenario.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's saying that you can't know it wasn't handled. Nobody wanted to mention these guys' names, right? Meaning we don't know what the tzava said exactly. Maybe it was written, I guess. Maybe it wasn't written. Yeah. Anyways,
it says, "Give it to my daughter." 12. Give
right,
my
but
daughter.
but maybe there was something else going on there. Maybe there was something else going on.
Oh.
Whatever it is. So we say Tanakama. Right now we're going to go through all the 6 sheets. Tanakama, Rebbe Elazar, the Tanakama that says that the money goes back to the sender. So he holds like Rebbe Elazar that the Shchiv Meirah is nothing any different than anybody else. So therefore there was no kinyan. Rebbe Nosson, Rebbe Yaakov Nami, Rebbe Elazar, they also like Rebbe Elazar. Afakav the miss, but even though he died, Lo Yamrinan mitzvah l'kayim d'rei meis. We don't say that there's a mitzvah l'kayim d'rei meis, right? So therefore, meaning, so that's why it goes back to the Yarshim of the sender. The Yesh Aimrim and the Yesh Aimrim, who says that it does go to the Yarshim of the recipient, go like the Rabbanon, who say that the kinyan of a Shchiv Meirah is a kinyan. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, Shalom Rishim Remeir Rebbe Elazar, right? The Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi that said name Remeir goes like Rebbe Elazar, that the Shchiv Meirah is the same as a regular person, and there was no kinyan there. Miyu heichad the miss, but if the guy died, I'm reading mitzvah l'kayim d'rei meis. So the mitzvah l'kayim d'rei meis. So therefore, you give it to the yarshim. Chachamim Aimrim yachlaiku mesapkalu, the same as before. They were mesupik. Bekan amru, and Bavel shuda adif, shuda is better. Reb Shimon Anasi ma'aseh lashminon. So basically, the Gemara originally thought that all these machlokes were based on when you give somebody something and you say, bring it to him, are you telling him to be kained on their behalf? And now the Gemara is saying, no, the Machlokes is all based on whether a Shchiv Meirah has the same din as a healthy person as it pertains to Kinyanim. Right? So that's that whole thing. Okay, we'll stop here. We'll finish the parak. It's a new shtickle. It's not exactly new Gemara, but at least we'll be able to chazir it a little tomorrow. So we'll stop over here. All right. The island should have themselves fine night.
Yaakov,
Yeah.
the whole Pesachel that we say should